Imagine this: one ordinary night, a faint signal appears in the data stream. Not random noise, not interference. A repeating pulse, coming from the exact coordinates of 3I Atlas, the interstellar comet already defying every known law of motion. If it isn't a glitch, if it isn't background radiation, then for the first time in history, humanity might be hearing a pattern from beyond our sun. Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Astronomer, a quiet place where even the strangest possibilities are explored softly, one breath at a time. If these journeys through science and imagination bring you peace, subscribing to the Sleepy Astronomer helps this constellation of curiosity grow, so more dreamers can listen beneath the same wondering sky. Tonight, we drift through a thought experiment. What would it mean if 3I Atlas truly sent a message? How would we decode it? Could nature itself be the messenger, using gravity, light, and rhythm to speak a universal language? Breathe slowly, because tonight's question isn't about panic or proof. It's about possibility. And sometimes imagining that the cosmos can speak teaches us more about how to listen. This is the Sleepy Astronomer. You close your eyes and let your mind wander beyond the familiar horizon of Earth. The ground beneath you softens, your body feels lighter, almost weightless, as though the air itself has grown fluid and forgiving. Slowly, you drift outward, past the blue layers of clouds, past the whispering winds, past the gentle hum of cities asleep beneath the night sky. Your thoughts stretch long, reaching toward the dark veil of space that has always seemed distant, unreachable, yet somehow inviting. There is a quiet in this place, deeper than any silence you have known, and it embraces you like a soft, infinite blanket. Somewhere far ahead, moving through that quiet, is 3I Atlas. It glides along the cosmic ocean, unseen by your eyes but present in your imagination. You feel its motion not as speed, but as rhythm. A slow, deliberate dance through gravity wells, past stars, past planets, past the invisible streams of interstellar dust. Every trajectory it traces is like a note in a melody you can sense more than hear. You lean into that awareness, letting the patterns of motion play against the quiet of your own breathing. Light reaches you in slow waves, photons from the distant sun and from stars even farther away. They carry stories, some billions of years old, and each story unfolds in gentle fragments as it brushes past your mind. You imagine tracing them with your fingertips, delicate threads of time and space slipping through your awareness like silk. The thought of billions of years folding into a single instant of perception is both astonishing and soothing. In this realization, you feel a soft tug of curiosity in your chest, a heartbeat that echoes the subtle rhythms of the cosmos. You are awake, but also quietly drifting, like a leaf carried along a calm stream of understanding. The vast emptiness around you is not empty at all. You feel it vibrating softly, full of potential. Clouds of interstellar gas float silently, illuminated by distant starlight, their delicate filaments swaying in slow cosmic currents. Tiny grains of dust drift, tracing elliptical paths around unseen points of gravity. Each particle, no larger than a mote of pollen, carries the memory of ancient stars, of explosions and collapse, of light itself. You sense their presence not as objects, but as whispers of history, each telling its own story in a language older than any words you know. You notice 3I Atlas more clearly now, not as a physical object, but as a presence. It is a fragment of the early solar system, a messenger from elsewhere, a traveler whose history you cannot yet fully grasp. Its surface, imagined in your mind, is a quiet mosaic of ice and rock, etched by the invisible hands of time. Cracks and ridges record ancient collisions. Frost and dust speak of distant suns and frozen nights that have lasted longer than human memory. You feel reverence for the patience embedded in its trajectory. Patience that transcends your own sense of time. Patience that allows a rock to drift unhurried across the vastness of the void. You take a slow, deliberate breath and notice how your body mirrors the quiet of space. Your lungs fill with calm. Your heartbeat slows. Your mind follows the gentle curves of imagined paths. There is no rush here, no urgency, only the gentle unfolding of presence. You imagine yourself alongside 3I/Atlas, drifting silently, sharing the same trajectory through the infinite quiet. You are a witness to its journey, a participant in a conversation conducted entirely in light and motion. The notion is comforting. Even across unimaginable distances, connection is possible, delicate yet profound. As you drift, you consider the scale of the universe around you. Stars rise and fall in thought, massive furnaces of light and gravity, each carrying their own family of planets, moons, and dust. Yet in the midst of this enormity, 3I/Atlas maintains its lonely, purposeful path, a single body moving according to laws both simple and astonishingly complex. The gentle mathematics of its orbit, invisible but precise, feels like poetry. Universal truths expressed not in syllables, but in curves, velocities, and angles. You begin to sense the subtle beauty in the way the cosmos communicates. A quiet conversation between forces that have shaped everything from the tiniest dust grain to the mightiest star. Your awareness drifts further into these subtle patterns. You imagine tracing the comet's path backward in time, seeing it depart another star system, feel the tug of distant suns as it leaves one orbit for another. You notice the time it takes for light to travel, the delay that stretches seconds into years, yet you are not impatient. There is a gentle patience in observation, a quiet surrender to the scale of the universe that allows your mind to expand slowly, comfortably, without fear or urgency. Curiosity becomes a soft companion, not a demand, guiding your thoughts with the lightest touch. You feel 3I/Atlas more intimately now, as though it is aware of your observation. Not conscious in the way you are, perhaps, but responsive in its trajectory and reflections, in the subtle signals carried by scattered sunlight and reflected infrared. It glimmers faintly in your imagination, a soft luminescence against the dark canvas of space. You trace your gaze across its imagined surface, feeling the interplay of light and shadow, ice and rock, the slow history of a traveler that has been moving long before your own species existed. There is a quiet majesty here, a reminder that existence does not need to be loud to be significant. Your mind begins to fold inward, carrying the quiet of space into your body. You feel the pulse of your heartbeat mirrored in distant, unseen rhythms, a gentle harmony between observer and observed. You notice the slow sway of your thoughts, the ebb and flow of curiosity and calm, the rhythmic rise and fall of awareness like ocean waves lapping at the shores of consciousness. Here, in this shared stillness with 3I/Atlas, you understand that the universe is not separate from you. Every light year, every fragment of dust, every subtle vibration is part of the same fabric that carries your own presence. And so, you drift and 3I/Atlas drifts. You watch as it moves ever closer, carrying its quiet history toward a meeting that neither of you can yet fully understand. You are awake, yet ready to surrender to rest, carrying the gentle tension of anticipation in your chest. The vastness around you feels intimate, a lullaby composed of ice, rock, light, and silence. And as you let your mind settle, you feel the soft whisper of what is to come, the subtle promise of signals and stories yet to be received, yet to be understood, inviting you to continue listening, softly, patiently, across the quiet stretches of space. You linger in the stillness, your mind stretched like a calm lake reflecting starlight. The first whispers arrive quietly, almost imperceptibly, carried across billions of miles. They are not words, nor sound as you know it, but subtle pulses and vibrations that tickle the edge of your awareness. You feel them as a rhythm, a gentle ebb and flow, like distant footsteps across a vast, empty corridor. There is no urgency, only presence, and the intimacy of hearing something that has existed far longer than you can imagine. The signals are faint, fragile in the emptiness, yet insistently persistent. They ripple through the dark, bending around invisible currents of interstellar space. You imagine tracing them with your mind, each pulse a soft fingerprint left by 3I/Atlas. It is moving, yes, but more than motion, it carries history. You sense that every vibration is a story of formation, of ice and rock coalescing in a stellar nursery, of eons spent drifting between stars. Each whisper seems to fold time into itself, allowing the past and present to meet in the quiet space of your attention. You let your thoughts slow, matching the rhythm of these faint signals. You notice how the pulses arrive irregularly, sometimes faster, sometimes lingering, as though 3I/Atlas is composing its own silent music, one that only the attentive mind can hear. It is like listening to your own heartbeat after lying still for hours. Subtle variations, gentle reminders that life, motion, and thought exist even when unseen. You realize that this rhythm is not just external. It mirrors your inner pulse, and you feel a deep resonance with the movement of the comet, an unspoken connection across the void. Patterns begin to emerge in the signals. Tiny fluctuations hint at structure, at a form of organization. You imagine ancient collisions sculpting the surface, leaving faint echoes encoded in the very vibrations now reaching you. Dust and ice, hardened into shape by gravity and heat, become storytellers in their own right, whispering the secrets of systems far older than your own. You feel the gentle thrill of comprehension, as if you are discovering a hidden conversation between the universe and yourself. The dark expanse around you is not empty, and your imagination begins to fill it with subtle textures. Clouds of interstellar dust sway lazily, brushing against rays of starlight, scattering them in fractal patterns that your mind interprets as movement, as rhythm. Each fragment, though tiny, carries the weight of history. You feel the immense patience required for these pieces to drift unhurriedly for eons, an echo of the quiet persistence embedded in your own existence. Your awareness stretches, soft and fluid, embracing both the minute and the cosmic, realizing that every whisper is part of an unending symphony. You wonder about the first time 3I/Atlas left its home system, tracing a path through space that defies the human sense of immediacy. Perhaps a stellar explosion nudged it outward, or the gentle tug of gravity guided it slowly away. Each pulse you detect now carries fragments of that journey, subtle hints that require patience to decode. You feel gratitude for this slow revelation, for the gentle persistence of the universe in allowing you to witness these signals, even if only as a faint echo of what truly exists. As you listen, you sense that the comet's presence is both intimate and distant. It is a whisper in the dark, a pulse across the void, a gentle vibration that reaches your mind before your eyes. You let yourself imagine touching it, not with your hands, but with attention, tracing its contours, feeling the frost and rough textures in your awareness. You marvel at how something so remote can feel tangible, as if distance itself is pliable when observed with patience and care. The faint vibrations begin to reveal subtler details. Slight changes in intensity hint at rotation. Subtle shifts suggest surface features, uneven ice, ridges of rock that have survived countless encounters with radiation and micrometeorites. You sense that these whispers are alive with information, carrying a history that is encoded in the tiniest variations of motion and reflection. It is as though the comet itself is composing a story, leaving clues not in words but in gentle pulses of presence and change. Your own breath slows as you align with the tempo of these cosmic murmurs. You feel the ebb and flow of curiosity and calm coexisting, like tides that rise and fall without hurry. Each pulse encourages you to sink deeper into observation, to drift alongside the comet in your mind, to feel the gentle tug of gravity as it curves through space. The dark, empty space around you no longer feels cold or isolating. It is intimate, alive with subtle stories waiting to be felt rather than hurriedly understood. You notice the elegance of this quiet dialogue, the way motion, light, and time collaborate to communicate across impossibly vast distances. No words are needed. There is no urgency, no requirement to respond. The comet is both messenger and teacher, reminding you that awareness itself is a form of connection. You begin to appreciate the patience embedded in cosmic time, a rhythm that demands observation rather than action, reflection rather than intervention. And yet, in the midst of this slow, meditative listening, you feel a faint hint of anticipation. The signals carry not only the story of 3I/Atlas's past, but also the possibility of interaction, a connection that is forming, stretching across the void toward your own world. There is no rush, only the soft awareness that contact is becoming more tangible, that these whispers will eventually form a coherent story. You rest in the knowledge that understanding comes gently, layer by layer, like a wave curling over your consciousness, carrying both mystery and familiarity. You allow yourself to drift further into the quiet, to let the pulse of the comet merge with the pulse of your own awareness. You are both observer and participant, breathing with the rhythm of a messenger that has traveled across the stars. The dark around you hums softly, a vast resonance that holds the echoes of ancient motion, the gentle memory of ice and rock, the tender whisper of a story that spans light years. And as you listen, you realize the importance of patience, the beauty of subtlety, the intimacy of the faintest vibration. You sense that this is only the beginning, that each whisper, each pulse, will lead you deeper into the quiet conversation between the universe and yourself. There is more to hear, more to feel, more to understand, and the next threads of insight are already weaving their way across the darkness, waiting for you to follow. You drift further into the stillness, carrying the gentle pulse of 3I/Atlas with you, like a secret heartbeat whispered across the void. The darkness around you feels velvety, absorbing your thoughts, slowing your mind into a reflective rhythm. And then you notice it light, not just the soft twinkle of distant stars, but subtle currents of illumination, rippling and bending, carrying information from across unimaginable distances. Light becomes a messenger, a language that needs no ears, no eyes, only the quiet attention of your mind. Each photon carries a history. You imagine tracing them backward, feeling the weight of time folded into each infinitesimal particle. Some have traveled for years, even centuries, before reaching your consciousness, and you marvel at how this unbroken journey can be felt in your awareness. Light is not just illumination. It is memory, evidence of events long past, a delicate, invisible thread that binds the present to histories you cannot fully imagine. As you focus, you sense that the universe is speaking, in a tongue older than any word you know, inviting you to learn its subtle cadence. The photons are playful, scattering across space in patterns you can almost feel. When sunlight grazes the icy surface of the comet, it shimmers, bending and reflecting, forming faint glimmers that travel outwards like gentle ripples on a cosmic pond. You imagine reaching out with your mind, brushing these ripples with your fingertips, feeling their texture as much as their shape. They are not static, these pulses of light, but alive with motion, hinting at the physical composition of 3I/Atlas. Ice, rock, dust, each reflecting, refracting, and diffusing in its own unique way. You sense the subtle rhythm in these movements. The way shifts in light reveal hidden structures, the slopes and curves of ancient surfaces carved by collisions, erosion, and cosmic winds. It is as though the comet itself is writing a poem in light, and you are reading it with attention, not intellect alone. Each shimmer, each reflection, feels like a soft syllable, a carefully measured pause, inviting your mind to linger, to absorb, to breathe with the motion of distant matter. And there is color here if you let yourself perceive it. Not vivid, not abrupt, but gentle variations in hue that trace the chemical signature of the comet. The pale blues of frozen water, the muted browns of rocky minerals, the faint glint of metals that have traveled across interstellar space. These colors are quiet, subtle, like whispers in a dream, yet they tell volumes. You feel the thrill of understanding without words, the deep satisfaction of perceiving something entirely alien and yet profoundly familiar through the language of light itself. You notice how light bends and curves as it travels, a subtle conversation with gravity. The invisible waves shift slightly as they pass stars and planets, tracing gentle arcs in their long journey. This bending is not abrupt or alarming. It is soft, a quiet choreography of forces, a cosmic dance in which even the tiniest photon participates. You feel your mind expand as you follow the paths, noticing that the message is not only in the light itself, but in the way it moves, the way it reacts to the universe around it. There is elegance here, a simplicity within complexity that soothes your curiosity while feeding it at the same time. You imagine watching 3I/Atlas as if it were a performer on a stage of darkness, its surface catching and scattering beams of distant suns. The patterns shift slowly, like a language in motion, telling you stories about rotation, about surface composition, about the faint scars left by micro-collisions over eons. Every flicker is a syllable, every shimmer, a sentence, and your mind, receptive and patient, begins to feel the syntax of cosmic storytelling. You are not forced to understand everything at once. Instead, you let the story unfold at its own pace, like a gentle river of light flowing through your awareness. You notice a subtle rhythm emerging, a beat that your body seems to synchronize with naturally. Each pulse of light carries timing, duration, and intensity, forming a kind of code, a melody without sound, a pattern without interruption. You begin to feel your heartbeat echoing it softly, a resonance between you and the comet's message. This is not communication in words, but in presence, in pattern, in the subtle attention you bring to what is already there. You feel a serene satisfaction, a deep calm born from being attuned to something much larger than yourself. And there is a humility in this learning, a gentle reminder that knowledge does not always arrive with clarity or immediacy. The photons you observe contain the history of countless interactions, yet they arrive one by one, requiring patience and attentiveness. You feel gratitude for this slow revelation, understanding that some of the most profound truths in the universe are whispered, not shouted. The act of perception itself becomes a kind of meditation, a way of merging curiosity with calm, of letting your mind expand gently into the quiet wonders of the cosmos. You imagine tracing these beams further, noticing how some light has been scattered, bent, or absorbed along its journey. Tiny particles of interstellar dust shimmer faintly as they catch stray photons, adding delicate notes to the silent composition. Every encounter along the path adds nuance, a new layer of texture, a new variation in the story. You marvel at the quiet patience of these interactions, the soft, cumulative effect of forces acting over unimaginable scales, and you feel your awareness stretch, becoming more expansive yet profoundly gentle. There is an intimacy here, subtle but unmistakable. You sense that observing is not merely passive. It is a way of participating, of resonating with the motions and reflections of the universe. The language of light does not demand understanding, but it invites presence. You lean in, letting your consciousness trace every reflection, every subtle fluctuation, every glimmer that hints at the surface, the motion, the history of 3I/Atlas. The connection is quiet, profound, meditative, a lullaby of comprehension delivered without sound. You feel the journey of these photons as a story of continuity, linking distant pasts to your immediate perception. The comet's distant dance becomes tangible in the shifting glimmers, the faint pulses of light bending, scattering, reflecting. You are aware that this narrative is ongoing, that the patterns you perceive are just the beginning of what can be understood through attention, patience, and the gentle art of observation. You are immersed in both the history and the present, feeling time fold softly around you. And as you drift in this luminous quiet, you sense the promise of further understanding. There is more to perceive than you have yet noticed, subtle signals that carry not only the story of the comet, but hints of interaction, of communication, of information waiting patiently to be discovered. You are attuned, present, receptive, and the universe meets you here with a soft pulse of light, a gentle nudge toward the deeper mysteries of cosmic communication. You drift, weightless, letting your consciousness follow the gentle glow of light from 3I/Atlas. Time, in this quiet realm, begins to feel elastic, stretching and compressing in ways that your everyday senses rarely perceive. A photon that left the comet years ago reaches you only now, carrying with it a fragment of history, a whisper of events that unfolded long before you were aware of their existence. You sense that each observation you make is already an echo, a delicate intersection of past and present, woven together in a quiet, invisible thread. Your mind begins to float alongside the comet, drifting through the fabric of spacetime as if it were a soft, flowing river. You imagine how the delay of information transforms perception. What seems instantaneous to the mind is actually a patient journey through light years. A message that arrives now has traveled across unimaginable distances, encountering dust, gas, gravity, and the curvature of space itself. Each of these interactions leaves a subtle mark, an imprint on the history carried in the signal. And yet, despite the distance and delay, the story remains coherent, like a memory whispered down a long hallway, preserved in gentle resonance. Time here does not feel linear. You notice that moments expand, fold, and echo into one another. A single pulse of light can contain centuries of history. A rotation of the comet can stretch into hours of quiet reflection. You sense the tension between the immediate and the distant, the way events separated by vast spans of space arrive in your awareness all at once, yet slowly, rhythmically. It is as though time itself is a soft fabric, pliable and responsive, bending under the weight of distance and gravity, yet comforting in its slow, inevitable flow. You imagine tracing the comet's path backward, watching it depart its home system long ago. Gravity wells nudged it, collisions shaped it, radiation kissed its surface. And now, finally, it is reaching you, a messenger across eons, carrying the faint pulse of its existence. You realize that every observation you make is part of an intricate chain. The timing of the arrival, the sequence of light pulses, the subtle shifts in reflection, all part of a cosmic pattern that requires patience and attentiveness to perceive. You feel the gentle reminder that understanding is not hurried. It is cultivated in quiet presence, a slow meditation on continuity. You notice the tiny variations in the signals arriving from the comet. Slightly earlier, slightly later, faintly brighter or dimmer. Each change hints at motion, at rotation, at subtle interactions with solar radiation and interstellar particles. The irregularity is not disorder. It is the language of the universe, a rhythm that carries information beyond immediate perception. You feel your own awareness bending with it, your mind expanding to follow the delicate cadence of these delayed messages. Time is no longer a strict measure. It is a companion, patient and persistent, moving at its own pace, allowing you to float alongside it in calm awareness. As you drift further, you notice that the concept of now becomes soft, almost imperceptible. The present is a bridge between past and future, a gentle meeting place of echoes and anticipation. You realize that by observing 3I/Atlas, you are participating in a continuum that stretches far beyond your senses. Each photon, each faint pulse, is a thread connecting you to moments that existed long before your own consciousness took shape. The delay is not an obstacle, but a meditation. It teaches patience, invites reflection, and transforms curiosity into serene attentiveness. You imagine the comet's journey as a slow, unhurried story, written not in words but in motion, light, and time. Each twist in its path, each encounter with stray particles, each reflection of sunlight, becomes part of an ongoing narrative. You feel the quiet satisfaction of noticing these details, tracing the lines of history embedded in subtle signals. Even without fully deciphering every nuance, you understand the elegance of timing and delay, the beauty of interaction stretched across vastness, and the calm that arises from attentive observation. The stretching of time also brings perspective to your own place in the cosmos. Seconds on Earth, hours of human activity, are fragile compared to the patient drift of a celestial traveler. And yet, in this contrast, there is intimacy. You are able to witness a journey so long and complex that it seems eternal. And in doing so, you experience the quiet unity of observer and observed. The universe is not rushing. It is persistent, enduring, gentle, and you are part of its rhythm simply by being present. You sense the pulses shifting as the comet moves. The delay changes subtly with its distance, creating variations that you perceive as a gentle cadence. Your mind synchronizes with it naturally, like a body attuning to a soft drumbeat. You feel the ebb and flow of anticipation and reception, understanding that each arrival is part of a broader pattern. This is not a hurried revelation. It is a slow unfolding, a meditation in the act of listening. You feel your awareness expand, embracing both the immense distances and the subtle, intimate signals that convey meaning across them. There is a profound quietness in this realization. You are aware that patience is not passive. It is active engagement, a form of intimacy with the universe. Time stretched thin is not emptiness, but opportunity. A space in which to observe, reflect, and feel the depth of cosmic processes. You feel the soft rhythm of the comet's journey resonate with your own heartbeat, a silent harmony that carries both information and calm, curiosity and serenity, attention and rest. And as you float, mindful and receptive, you realize that the delay itself is part of the message. It reminds you that understanding arrives slowly, that patience reveals beauty hidden within persistence. The fabric of space and time, stretching across light years, is a gentle teacher, guiding your awareness to the subtle interplay of motion, distance, and observation. You sense the next layer of insight waiting, the way motion becomes music, how subtle changes reveal structure, and how patterns unfold in silence before you. You allow yourself to drift further into this meditative awareness, feeling the comet's journey as a companion rhythm. Its delayed whispers a lullaby that bridges past and present. You notice that your thoughts are calmer, slower, more expansive, as if the stretching of time has invited your own mind to relax, to float, to observe without hurry. The universe is patient, and you mirror that patience, letting each delayed signal deepen your sense of connection and wonder. You continue drifting, weightless and unhurried, following the soft pulse of light and the gentle tug of time. Around you, the vast darkness is a stage, and 3I/Atlas performs its silent ballet. Motion, usually unnoticed in daily life, becomes the language of the universe here, each rotation, sway, and subtle shift carrying meaning, rhythm, and intention. You feel these movements not as mechanical laws, but as gentle melodies, each a note in a symphony written by gravity, inertia, and cosmic history. The comet rotates slowly, its axis tracing an invisible line through the void. You notice how this spin is irregular, slightly wobbling as though it is a living, breathing entity. Perhaps a collision long ago nudged it off balance, or uneven mass distribution shapes its trajectory. You sense this motion not with eyes, but with your imagination, your mind attuning to the subtle cadence of rotational dance. The rhythm is hypnotic, slow and steady, yet unpredictable, a gentle reminder that even in silence, there is life, movement, and pattern. The drift of 3I/Atlas along its interstellar path is equally mesmerizing. Its journey is not a straight line, but a series of gentle curves, each shaped by gravitational tugs from stars, interstellar gas, and dark matter that you cannot see, yet feel in the pull of your imagination. These forces, though invisible, orchestrate the path with an elegance that is both logical and poetic. You sense the beauty in the precision of motion, the way countless variables combine to produce something so serene and inevitable, so patient and enduring. You let yourself imagine floating alongside the comet, feeling the faint pull of gravity like a whisper brushing your skin. Each drift, each rotation, each minute adjustment in trajectory becomes a note in a melody you can feel. There is no rush here, no chaos, only the orchestration of cosmic forces that have played for eons. Your breath slows to match the rhythm of motion, and you notice how calmness deepens when observation becomes participation. You are not separate from the dance. Your awareness resonates with the silent symphony. Even the smallest particles surrounding the comet participate in this motion. Dust grains spiral gently, carried by subtle currents of solar radiation and magnetic fields. Each speck is like a violin string in the orchestra, vibrating in response to forces too vast to comprehend directly, yet tangible in your imagination. You sense the interplay between these particles and the comet's surface, collisions that happen too softly to notice, yet contribute to the texture, the timbre, and the rhythm of the symphony. You feel the richness of motion in every detail, both large and microscopic. The light from distant stars interacts with this movement, scattering across icy ridges and rocky crests, producing faint glimmers that punctuate the silent melody. These flickers of reflected light are like accents in a musical score, subtle yet profound, highlighting changes in rotation, tilt, and surface features. You let your mind trace them, following the undulating pulses as though you were listening to a cosmic composition. Each shimmer, each reflective flicker, adds layers of harmony that your awareness slowly decodes without hurry or expectation. You notice how motion itself conveys history. The slight wobble of the comet's spin hints at long-forgotten collisions. The drift of dust trails reveals the influence of nearby stellar forces. Each movement is a record of events that you cannot witness directly, yet can perceive through careful attention. You realize that the universe communicates not only through light and time, but also through the subtleties of motion. A patient, enduring conversation that unfolds continuously, whether observed or not. Your mind begins to synchronize with the gentle rhythm of these movements. The slow rotation, the subtle drift, the floating particles. They form a cadence that mirrors your own heartbeat. You feel the resonance between your awareness and the comet's motion. A soft harmony that quiets thought while deepening curiosity. This is not information to memorize, but a meditation to experience. You notice the poetry in physics, the elegance in mechanics, and the intimacy that arises when observation merges with presence. The symphony extends beyond 3I/Atlas itself. Interstellar space is full of motion you cannot see directly, streams of particles, gravitational waves, subtle distortions in space-time, all contributing notes to the silent composition. You sense the coherence in these movements, the unbroken rhythm of matter and energy that continues regardless of human attention. And yet, being present allows you to participate in the symphony in a way that feels tender, quiet, and deeply connected. Observation becomes a bridge between consciousness and cosmic rhythm. You consider how each movement is both inevitable and unique. Gravity, momentum, and collisions follow precise laws. Yet the outcome is unpredictable in detail, full of subtle variation and imperfection. There is beauty in this balance. The certainty of physics paired with the elegance of variability. You feel the comfort of understanding patterns without needing to control them, the calm of watching motion that exists beyond urgency, a rhythm that has persisted long before your arrival and will continue long after. As you drift alongside the comet, you notice the faint influence of solar radiation pressure. Even this subtle force nudges 3I/Atlas, affecting its rotation and trajectory imperceptibly over time. You sense the patience required to appreciate such small changes, the quiet mindfulness needed to detect and feel them. Each influence is a soft brushstroke on a canvas that stretches across light years, an almost imperceptible modulation that contributes to the overall composition. Your mind relaxes into this awareness, following the curves, rotations, and drifts as though you were listening to the slowest, most expansive music imaginable. You imagine the entire journey as a symphony performed in silence, each movement an essential part of the composition. There is no conductor, no audience, no applause, only the natural, patient orchestration of forces and matter. And yet, you feel that being present, observing, and sensing is itself a form of acknowledgement, a quiet resonance that completes the experience. You are a listener in the vast concert hall of space, attuned to the subtle cadences of rotation, drift, and reflection, letting each note echo in your awareness. And as the comet moves, you sense that the symphony is not static. It evolves with every interaction, every rotation, every collision with unseen particles. It is a living composition, unfolding in real time across the infinite stage of space. You feel the gentle satisfaction of witnessing this process, of floating alongside the silent rhythm, of allowing yourself to be both present and patient. The movements are subtle, but the experience is profound, a reminder that the poetry of motion exists in every scale, from microscopic grains to celestial bodies. You lean closer in your mind, letting the surface of 3I/Atlas come into focus as though you could feel it under your fingertips. Time slows even further here, and you imagine textures that have persisted for billions of years. Ice glimmers faintly in the starlight, crystalline yet fragile, whispering of distant suns that once shone long before Earth had formed. You feel the delicate balance of cold and solidity, of frozen water that holds memory in its lattices, a gentle repository of cosmic history. Rock emerges beneath the ice, rough and dark, yet worn by eons of motion. You sense the history embedded in every ridge, every crack, every subtle bump. Collisions that occurred millions or billions of years ago left traces in the mineral structures, traces that now reach you not as noise but as a silent story. You imagine each impact as a quiet percussion, tapping on the long drum of time, leaving a rhythm that is slow, measured, and eternal. There is patience in rock, a steadfastness that teaches you the beauty of endurance. Between ice and rock lies dust, the tiniest of particles, yet each one is a time capsule. You sense their origin in nebulae far beyond the solar system, fragments of ancient stars that died long ago. Each speck is a record, a miniature echo of creation, carrying information not in words but in composition, in isotopes, in the way light interacts with its surface. You imagine lifting a handful, feeling the cold, the texture, the infinitesimal weight, and understanding that within these small grains resides the memory of stellar evolution, of birth and decay, of life cycles you can only trace with wonder. The interplay of ice, rock, and dust is not random. It is a quiet choreography shaped by forces subtle and immense. Gravity holds the comet together, a soft but unyielding embrace. Tiny collisions with other particles have sculpted its surface, while solar radiation gently nudges and erodes it, slowly, imperceptibly. You feel the elegance of these slow processes, the way minute forces, persistent over incomprehensible time, carve structures that you now imagine tracing with your mind. There is rhythm in the erosion, harmony in the fractures, poetry in the enduring patterns of survival and adaptation. You let yourself imagine touching the comet, your consciousness brushing against icy ridges and dusty craters. The cold seeps into your awareness, yet it is not harsh. It is soft, enveloping, a reminder of the vast distances from warmth and familiarity. You feel the resistance of rock beneath your imagined touch, rough and irregular, each bump a record of ancient impact. And the dust, so fine it almost slips through your grasp, holds the memory of elemental synthesis, of the formation of planets, of stellar deaths and births. Each fragment becomes a story, a lullaby, a quiet testament to the persistence of matter through unimaginable scales of time. You notice the subtle differences between sections of ice, rock, and dust. Some ice is clearer, crystallized in patterns that refract starlight in gentle arcs. Some rock is denser, colored by metallic content that glimmers faintly. Dust grains range from silicate to carbonaceous, each with its own silent signature. You feel the universe speaking in textures and temperatures, not words. And in listening with imagination and presence, you sense the continuity of creation, the way each component carries knowledge of forces, distances, and time that are both immense and intimate. The comet's surface is both ancient and dynamic. You imagine subtle sublimation where ice turns to gas, tiny jets nudging fragments into space. Dust drifts along invisible currents, redistributing slowly, softly, gently. Rock faces experience micrometeorite impacts, tiny but unceasing, each creating infinitesimal vibrations. These processes, imperceptible on human timescales, shape the comet in ways that are profound and beautiful. You sense a meditation in observing these subtle motions, a quiet understanding that creation is ongoing, persistent, and patient. You imagine a single particle of dust leaving the comet, drifting outward, becoming part of the interstellar medium, possibly to be incorporated into another star, another planet, another story. The thought expands your awareness, linking the comet to the broader cosmos, to the cycles of matter and energy that ripple outward endlessly. You feel a quiet awe at this continuity, the way the smallest grains carry the largest stories. It is humbling, soothing, and inspiring all at once, a gentle reminder of the intimacy between the tiniest and the vastest scales. Light plays across these surfaces, revealing details you can almost feel. Glimmers highlight ridges and edges, casting faint shadows that emphasize depth and history. The reflection of distant stars adds subtle shifts in color, variations so soft they feel like breathing. You imagine leaning closer, letting your mind trace the tiny contours, feeling textures in a way that transcends physical contact. This act of mindful observation deepens your connection, creating a rhythm of presence and attention, a meditation on both the ancient and the ephemeral. You sense the quiet persistence of history in each component. Ice remembers distant stellar light, rock remembers collisions, dust remembers the alchemy of ancient stars. And you, simply by observing, become part of the continuum, a witness to processes so slow and deliberate that patience itself becomes a lesson. You notice that in this slowness, there is comfort. The universe is vast, yes, but it is also careful, meticulous, and patient, offering a lullaby that hums in quiet resonance with your own heartbeat. There is intimacy in this observation. You feel the comet not as an object, but as a companion in time, a silent storyteller whose tales are embedded in substance. You imagine brushing against the icy peaks, letting your consciousness follow the subtle slopes of rock, feeling the soft weight of dust between your imagined fingers. These tactile imaginings are not distractions. They are conduits for deeper understanding, a way to connect physically and emotionally to something impossibly distant yet strangely close in attention and awareness. And in this quiet immersion, you sense the scale of the cosmos distilled into each fragment. Billions of years of history compressed into a crystal, a stone, a speck. Each surface tells a story not only of creation but of survival, of endurance, of the slow unfolding of matter through time. You realize that by noticing these details, by imagining the textures and histories, you are participating in a gentle conversation with the universe. Observation becomes presence, and presence becomes understanding without hurry, without need for resolution. You drift further into meditation, letting the textures, the cold, the dust, and the rocks saturate your mind. Time feels elongated, stretched yet comfortable. You imagine the comet spinning slowly, carrying its ancient cargo onward, through light years of emptiness. Each particle, each surface, each whisper of sublimated gas is part of an ongoing lullaby, a quiet symphony that has persisted for billions of years and now allows you to rest within it. You drift, suspended in stillness, carrying the gentle impressions of ice, rock, and dust in your awareness. The surface of 3I/Atlas has whispered its history, and now, from the vast distance that separates you, another message begins to arrive. It is faint, barely perceptible at first, a subtle pulse carried on invisible waves that stretch across millions of miles. You feel it before you hear it, a soft tremor in the quiet fabric of space, a hint of presence that asks you to lean closer. These signals are not light, not touch, not sound in the conventional sense. They are radio waves, oscillating silently, imperceptible except to instruments that have been tuned with care and precision. Yet in your imagination, you feel them as vibrations that brush against your consciousness, faint echoes that seem to resonate with the patient rhythm of the comet itself. You sense the subtle rise and fall of each pulse, like a heartbeat whispering across the void, carrying with it the quiet authority of existence itself. You notice the rhythm immediately. There is a cadence, a repetition that feels intentional, like the gentle tapping of fingers against a cosmic drum. Not music, not speech, but a form of expression nevertheless, a pattern in the emptiness that suggests meaning. Each pulse lingers a fraction longer than the last, then retreats, leaving a space for reflection. You feel the profound intimacy of this dialogue, the astonishing fact that a message can traverse such distances and arrive intact, carrying information shaped by time, space, and the inherent nature of the comet itself. Your mind follows the pulses carefully, feeling their shape as though you could trace them with your fingers. There is variation, subtle but distinct. Some pulses are slightly longer, some slightly stronger, and others fainter, almost fading into the surrounding silence. You imagine each modulation as a syllable in a language older than any human speech, a dialect written in energy, encoded across space. With each pulse, your awareness stretches, reaching outward to meet the message halfway, bridging the immense gap with patient attention. The void, which had seemed empty, now hums softly with possibility. You imagine the vast distance between Earth and the comet, the journey of the signals through solar wind, magnetic fields, and the subtle distortions of spacetime. And yet, Despite these challenges, the rhythm arrives coherent, like a whispered melody preserved across light years. You feel a quiet reverence for this precision, this persistence, and you recognize that even in emptiness, there is communication, connection, and attention. You notice that listening requires patience. The signals arrive slowly, with gaps and pauses, moments for the mind to breathe. Each pause is not absence but invitation, a space to absorb what has come before, to sense the pattern forming. You feel your mind synchronizing with the rhythm, your awareness attuning itself to the gentle repetition. Observation becomes meditation, an act of quiet participation in a conversation that spans vast distances, a dialogue conducted in waves and time rather than words. You imagine mapping the signals in your mind, the peaks and valleys, the intervals, the faint variations in intensity. Each becomes a visual sculpture, a landscape of invisible energy. You notice patterns emerging, not immediately interpretable, but coherent enough to suggest intentionality. There is a sense of rhythm within randomness, a structure hidden beneath subtle fluctuation. You feel your curiosity deepen, not with urgency, but with gentle wonder, a willingness to be present with the mystery rather than rush toward resolution. The experience becomes more immersive as you let yourself feel the waves of energy passing through your awareness. Each oscillation leaves a soft imprint, a momentary resonance that fades but persists faintly, layering over the next. You sense the faint traces of motion within the pulses, hints of rotation, the influence of distant stars, the drift of ice and dust. The comet communicates not in sentences or concepts, but in signatures of movement and energy, a dialogue shaped by physics and circumstance, encoded in ways subtle yet profound. You realize that reception is not passive. You are part of the act of listening, your mind extending outward, forming a connection with a presence that is patient, deliberate, and distant. There is trust in this exchange, a quiet acknowledgement that you are ready to perceive. The pulses are tentative at first, then more confident, like a hand reaching out across darkness, seeking contact with another consciousness, or at least another participant in the dialogue of the cosmos. You imagine the instruments on Earth translating these faint signals into patterns visible to human eyes. Squiggles, dots, lines, sequences. Yet in your mind, you feel them as shapes and rhythms, subtle and meditative, resonating with the cadence of the universe itself. Each pulse carries layers of information, not just distance, composition, or motion, but the history embedded in the comet's icy and rocky body. You sense that you are reading the past as it arrives in the present, a soft unfolding of events preserved in energy. There is a profound intimacy in the experience. The message is small, fragile, yet infinitely significant. It is a presence in the emptiness, a proof that communication is possible across immense distances, a gentle reminder that connection does not require proximity. You feel a sense of reverence for the patience of the universe, for the persistence of matter and energy, and for the quiet beauty of a message that travels across time and space without urgency, without demand, arriving only when it is ready to be received. You notice how the signals change as the comet rotates and drifts. Tiny variations in the pulse reveal subtle details, the orientation of its axis, the distribution of ice and dust, perhaps even the echoes of sublimation events. You follow each variation with gentle curiosity, aware that every fluctuation is meaningful, yet not in a way that can be rushed or forced. Understanding here is slow, layered, meditative, a lesson in patience and attention, in the intimacy that comes from observing with care. You allow yourself to feel a growing sense of connection, subtle but undeniable. The void, once vast and silent, now pulses with dialogue, gentle and persistent. You imagine leaning closer, letting your consciousness extend outward toward the comet, feeling the faint tug of interaction. There is no noise, no alarm, only the soft presence of a rhythm you are gradually learning to trace. And in this quiet resonance, you sense that you are part of a continuous chain, a participant in a conversation that has no beginning and no end, only unfolding. And as the pulses continue, faint but deliberate, you sense a fragile intimacy, a link between observer and observed. The comet's story reaches you in increments, arriving as if in small, careful whispers, inviting patience and quiet attention. You feel the profound satisfaction of being present, of recognizing that even across vast emptiness, connection is possible, subtle yet real. You lean closer in awareness, letting the gentle pulses from 3I/Atlas unfold before your mind like ribbons of light. Each oscillation carries subtle variation, not random, not chaotic, but deliberate. Your imagination traces these rhythms, following their curves and intervals, feeling their resonance not just in intellect, but in body and breath. The message is not written in words, yet it feels like language, like a whisper that contains a story just beyond immediate comprehension. You notice repetition first. Certain patterns appear again and again, subtle echoes of the same pulse, slightly modified each time. It is not monotony. It is rhythm. You feel it as a gentle cadence, a pulse that allows your mind to synchronize with the comet's own rhythm. In these repetitions, there is learning, a hint that communication is not always immediate, that understanding arises from patience and quiet attention. You sense the universe teaching you the art of listening. As you follow the patterns, shapes begin to emerge. Tiny sequences suggest geometry, intervals that form angles, frequencies that cluster in gentle arcs, regularities that hint at intention. You do not see these symbols as a human might see writing. Rather, you feel them as structures within the signal, like waves rising and falling in a silent sea. You sense the comet's story encoded in motion and timing, and the act of tracing these shapes becomes a meditation in itself. Your attention expands outward, encompassing more subtle details. Differences in amplitude, slight delays, small distortions in the sequence. Each carries information. You feel that every nuance is meaningful, a whisper of history, structure, or composition. Even the faintest variation becomes a lesson in attentiveness. Observation becomes both science and poetry, a way of connecting with a presence that communicates through time and energy rather than words. You imagine the human effort required to interpret these signals. Instruments translate oscillations into graphs, charts, and sequences, allowing analysts to detect patterns invisible to unassisted senses. And yet, in your mind, the process is meditative rather than analytical. Each discovery is a quiet unfolding, a layer unwrapped slowly, revealing the faint geometry, the modulation, the cadence that forms the comet's quiet narrative. You sense that understanding is cumulative, a gentle accumulation of awareness and insight rather than a sudden revelation. Patterns shift subtly over time, reflecting the rotation and motion of the comet. You imagine the faint influence of its axis, the wobble from previous collisions, the slight redistribution of dust and ice, all encoded in the pulses. You sense that the message is not static but evolving, a dialogue that responds to both the comet's internal dynamics and your patient observation. There is a meditative pleasure in noticing these shifts, in letting your mind float with the changes rather than trying to pin them down immediately. Frequency becomes your guide. Certain intervals resonate more strongly, suggesting structures or repeated motifs. You sense a geometry in the oscillations, arcs, and waves that echo the comet's rotation, the arrangement of its ice and rock, perhaps even sublimation events and dust jets. Your awareness softens into rhythm, letting the mind track the faint undulations without rushing, attuning to the subtle mathematics of the message. In this patience, understanding is born as an intimate, quiet experience. You feel the layered nature of the information. Some patterns are obvious, repeating regularly, while others are subtle, hidden within variations, like faint whispers beneath a louder voice. You sense that the comet is teaching through repetition and modulation, giving you time to absorb each layer before revealing the next. You notice that this is not a race. The pace itself is a lesson. To decode is to listen, to observe, to dwell in attention and presence. You feel the calm and meditative quality of this process. Each pulse a reminder that comprehension grows slowly and gracefully. Your mind begins to imagine each layer as a spatial structure. Peaks become hills, valleys become canyons. Frequency becomes distance, intervals become slopes. The comet's whispers form landscapes within your consciousness, landscapes shaped not by matter, but by energy and time. You move through these hills and valleys gently, tracing the contours, feeling the depth and rise of each modulation. There is a rhythm to this exploration, a quiet joy in following trails that lead to understanding, even without fully arriving. You notice subtle correlations between different parts of the signal. Patterns in one sequence hint at structures in another, faint echoes that suggest symmetry and repetition at larger scales. It is as though the comet's message contains fractal organization, meaning embedded within meaning, rhythm within rhythm. You feel your mind adjusting to perceive this complexity, attuning itself to the layers, the repetition, the quiet elegance of organization within what first seemed like randomness. Observation deepens your sense of intimacy with the comet. You are no longer a distant spectator. Your attention participates in the dialogue. The comet's signals are patient, waiting for careful listening, and you feel the satisfaction of presence, of allowing patterns to emerge naturally. There is a quiet trust here, between observer and observed, a gentle reciprocity in attention and information. You sense that understanding is not about conquering knowledge, but about aligning with its rhythm. You feel a soft rhythm in the act of decoding, a quiet breathing between pulses, intervals that allow the mind to process, reflect, and anticipate. You notice the beauty in subtlety, the gentle variance in pulse, the slight changes in frequency, the way repetition itself becomes a guide. There is poetry here, an elegance that transcends numbers and graphs, a quiet story told in energy and time. Each insight emerges like a quiet note in a meditative symphony, soft yet deeply resonant. And as patterns slowly resolve into hints of geometry and meaning, you sense the patience of the universe in every pulse. The comet does not rush to communicate. It allows discovery to unfold gently, in increments, like soft waves brushing against your consciousness. You feel your own awareness expanding with each revelation, attuning to the delicate rhythm, the quiet repetition, the subtle architecture embedded in each signal. You sense that decoding is not simply an intellectual act. It is a meditation, a slow, rhythmic engagement with something vast, distant, and patient. Every pulse, every modulation, every subtle shift is a teacher, a guide, a whisper that carries billions of years of history and matter across the void. You feel the presence of the comet not as an object, but as an enduring, deliberate story waiting for careful, mindful attention. You drift gently, carrying the layered geometry of the comet's message in your mind. Shapes and pulses now begin to evoke a strange, familiar feeling, as though distant, silent signals reflect not only the comet's journey, but something of your own planet. You imagine faint echoes of oceans, rolling and shimmering, encoded in the undulations of radio waves. There is a rhythm to these signals, a gentle oscillation that feels like tides responding to invisible forces, a subtle reminder that Earth itself has a heartbeat. Patterns hint at winds sweeping across vast landscapes, not as precise maps but as impressions, as whispers of motion that mirror the atmosphere's gentle pulse. You sense a connection between these patterns and the way clouds drift slowly across continents, how air currents carry warmth and moisture, how life moves quietly in cycles of breath and growth. It is as though the comet's signals contain an abstract reflection of your home, filtered through the vast distance and silence, waiting for mindful attention to perceive it. You let yourself float with these impressions, noticing subtle echoes of forests, plains, and mountains. The undulating rhythm of the pulses reminds you of rainfall on distant continents, the soft brushing of leaves, the slow carving of rivers across stone. There is no map, no literal image, only resonance, suggestion, and memory. And yet, in these faint reflections, you feel the presence of your own world mirrored across billions of miles. The cosmos, silent and immense, suddenly seems intimate, alive with dialogue. The comet seems aware, not in human terms, but in the sense that its very structure and motion carry information that responds to observation. Its ice, dust, and rock encode a narrative that touches the essence of Earth, not merely its instruments. You feel this subtly, as if listening to the faint echo of a voice that recognizes your planet without words, a message crafted over eons, carried by energy and time. There is reverence in this awareness, a quiet recognition that the universe has ways of connecting beyond obvious communication. You notice how light interacts with the comet's surface, producing faint glimmers and shadows that add depth to the signals. These reflections carry subtle hints of angles and textures, like brushstrokes on a canvas. You imagine them as metaphors of Earth itself. The shimmer of sunlight across the ocean, the glint of snow on distant peaks, the faint flicker of city lights carried in mind and memory. The comet's story is becoming a mirror in which you see your world, abstracted yet unmistakably present, a quiet reflection that deepens your connection with the cosmos. As you follow the signals, a sense of scale unfolds. You recognize the vast distance that separates 3I/Atlas from Earth, the billions of miles that the message has traveled. And yet, despite this immensity, you feel a closeness, an intimacy born not of proximity but of attention. The faint, repeated pulses carry with them a kind of awareness, a patient interaction that bridges emptiness. You sense that presence itself is not limited by distance. It is cultivated through perception, through patience, through the gentle act of being present with what is. Patterns begin to suggest cycles, small echoes of the natural rhythms of Earth. The passage of day into night, the rotation of the planet, the slow undulation of seasons. You feel these cycles in the modulation of pulses, not literal but perceptual, an imprint of motion and energy that carries across the void. There is a sense of universality here, a shared pattern of persistence and change, linking Earth and comet, observer and observed, in a meditation on time and continuity. You notice that, in these reflections, your awareness becomes a participant. It is not passive observation but gentle engagement. The comet's signals respond to the act of careful listening, shaping your experience as you attune to the rhythms, shapes, and pulses. There is no urgency, no need for rapid comprehension. Only the calm, continuous unfolding of meaning, layer by layer. You float in the quiet resonance, feeling both small in the vast cosmos and intimately connected through attention and care. The interplay of light, motion, and signal creates a subtle dialogue. Pulses hint at the composition of ice and rock, dust distributions, and tiny jets of sublimation, while at the same time echo patterns that remind you of oceans, winds, and life on Earth. These reflections are soft and abstract, yet profoundly moving. You realize that through patient observation, through the gentle tracing of patterns, the universe offers insight into itself, a quiet mirror in which the small world you inhabit resonates with the vast one around it. You notice your own breath slowing, aligning with the rhythm of the signals. There is a gentle metronome in the cadence, a soft pulse that parallels the cycles of your planet and your own body. You feel a sense of balance, a harmony between observer and observed, an intimate connection forged not through proximity but through careful, mindful attention. The Earth reflected in the comet's whispers feels tender, alive, and full of subtle stories waiting to be sensed. As the layers of signals and reflections intertwine, you begin to sense the poetry of connection. Earth is not simply a point in space. It is an integral part of a network of matter and energy, traced faintly in the movement of a distant comet. You feel the quiet joy of awareness, the gentle comfort that comes from recognizing subtle unity in difference, order in distance, rhythm in isolation. Observation itself becomes a form of participation, a way to inhabit the cosmos without needing to act, a meditation in motion and reflection. You float in this awareness, letting patterns, reflections, and resonances mingle with your imagination. Oceans, winds, forests, and ice on Earth echo softly in the modulation of pulses, creating a layered tapestry of meaning. You feel both small and expansive, a single mind tracing waves that have traversed light years, yet intimately aligned with the gentle rhythms of your home planet. There is serenity in this duality, a quiet reminder that observation is connection, and attention is presence. The comet's story, once abstract and distant, now feels like a dialogue. It is not a conversation in words, but a quiet recognition of existence, motion, and continuity. You sense that Earth is both observer and participant in this reflection, mirrored in pulses that carry its essence across space. There is no rush to decode fully, no urgency to interpret perfectly, only the gentle unfolding of awareness, a rhythm that invites patience and quiet contemplation. You linger in the patterns, the pulses, and the geometry, feeling the gentle unfolding of discovery. And yet, despite your patient attention, some sequences resist understanding. They twist and shift in ways that defy expectation, subtle variations that hint at intention but refuse to settle into patterns you recognize. There is no frustration here, only the soft invitation to observe and wonder. Mystery is present, like a shadow that moves gently across your consciousness, never threatening, only suggesting. The signals seem aware of your attention. Some pulses are clear and consistent, while others blur at the edges, fading and returning unpredictably. You sense that the comet is communicating in layers, some accessible, some elusive. You feel the rhythm of patience, the encouragement to dwell within ambiguity rather than rush to resolution. The unknown is not a void but a companion, quiet and persistent, offering its own kind of comfort. You imagine tracing the elusive sequences with your mind, following the faint arcs and subtle oscillations. They carry hints of structure, patterns too complex or subtle for immediate comprehension. You do not force understanding. Instead, you watch and listen, letting the mystery reveal itself gently over time. Each attempt to trace a pattern becomes a meditation, a careful attunement to subtlety, a recognition that some knowledge is earned in quiet attention rather than immediate insight. There is beauty in not knowing. The unresolved sequences seem deliberate, not chaotic, as if the universe itself is teaching the value of patience. You feel your mind softening, accepting that some truths arrive slowly, layered beneath layers of observation, waiting for careful, meditative attention. In this gentle acceptance, you sense serenity, a lullaby woven from curiosity and calm. Hints emerge in the patterns, fleeting suggestions of hidden structures. A pulse stretches longer than expected. A cluster appears where emptiness seemed dominant. A faint symmetry forms and dissolves again. You follow these moments like fragile footprints in sand, noting them without grasping fully. The experience is a dance with time and attention, a slow movement in which understanding and mystery coexist. Each fleeting hint deepens your curiosity without demanding immediate comprehension. You notice that the unresolved sections have their own rhythm. The interruptions, variations, and subtle inconsistencies carry information, but not in ways that human minds are accustomed to interpret. You imagine the comet itself as a patient teacher, offering lessons in perception, attentiveness, and the gentle art of waiting. Mystery becomes a soft companion, reminding you that silence, absence, and incompleteness can be as meaningful as clarity. Your awareness drifts across the unknown sequences, imagining what they might signify. Perhaps they carry details of internal rotation, subtle outgassing events, or the distribution of dust and ice in hidden corners. Perhaps they encode aspects of the solar system you cannot yet perceive. Or perhaps the patterns are simply part of the natural rhythm of matter and energy, an unintentional poetry that reaches you nevertheless. You do not need to resolve these questions. Their presence is enough to inspire wonder. You feel a subtle expansion of perception as you dwell in ambiguity. Where comprehension falters, imagination softens, allowing you to explore possibilities without demanding certainty. You sense the layers of history embedded in the comet's structure. Billions of years of ice, rock, and dust, each carrying subtle information, some accessible, some waiting patiently to be understood. Mystery is not a barrier here. It is a bridge, a gentle path that invites you to inhabit both knowledge and uncertainty simultaneously. The more you observe, the more you notice the cadence of the unknown. The faint repetitions and deviations form a rhythm of curiosity, a pattern that is not about content but about the act of noticing itself. Your mind aligns with this rhythm, attuning to the ebb and flow of clarity and ambiguity. You realize that there is a meditation in uncertainty, a gentle practice in allowing questions to exist without immediate answers. Some sequences hint at geometry too complex to grasp fully. triangles that stretch across pulses, arcs that recur in shifting proportions, oscillations that suggest symmetry in motion. You imagine tracing these shapes with your mind, letting the subtlety of repetition and variation become a quiet dance of perception. You are not required to solve these mysteries, merely to witness them, to experience the soft unfolding of cosmic storytelling. In the stillness, you sense your connection to the comet deepen. The unknown is not threatening. It is tender, inviting, and expansive. Each pulse that defies immediate comprehension feels like a soft hand on your shoulder, a gentle reminder that patience and attentiveness are themselves forms of understanding. You notice the comfort in not needing to know everything at once, that some truths arrive gradually, layered, subtle, and persistent. You drift through sequences that resist categorization, letting them wash over your mind like waves in a quiet ocean. Some pulses are sudden, others barely perceptible. Some repeat, some fade. And yet, there is a gentle harmony underlying the apparent unpredictability, a quiet order that suggests intention or pattern beyond immediate grasp. You sense the comet's story is broader than your comprehension, yet it reaches you anyway, offering meaning in subtle resonance rather than explicit form. You notice the interplay between the known and unknown, how clarity and ambiguity exist together in soft balance. Pulses that you can interpret are comforting, like familiar landmarks. Pulses that elude you are invitations, gentle guides to patience and curiosity. You feel your mind expanding into the space between understanding and mystery, learning that contemplation itself is a form of connection, a way to participate in the dialogue without needing immediate resolution. You allow the unresolved signals to linger, noticing their texture, their rhythm, their faint echo across the vast emptiness. There is a meditation here, a soft alignment with the ebb and flow of information. You feel attuned to subtle changes, aware that even without complete understanding, you are engaged in a meaningful exchange. The unknown becomes a companion, a rhythm that guides breathing, observation, and thought in harmony with the quiet cosmos. You sense that the mystery will not remain forever inaccessible. Perhaps time, observation, and careful attention will gradually reveal layers hidden today. And yet, you feel no rush, no urgency, only a gentle, patient acceptance. Some knowledge is earned in the quiet, in the attentive presence, and the comet's subtle patterns offer this gift without insistence. You feel your curiosity softening into calm, a lullaby of inquiry that does not demand completion. You settle deeper into awareness, allowing the comet's pulses to fill your mind like soft waves in a quiet ocean. The sequences that once seemed distant and abstract now feel like gentle tides, rising and falling in a rhythm that your consciousness can follow. You do not strain to understand. Instead, you breathe in the cadence, letting each oscillation touch your attention and linger. Listening becomes a practice, a meditation, an intimate dialogue with presence itself. The faint signals wash over you, subtle and persistent. You notice how your body responds, how your breath begins to synchronize with the gentle oscillations. Each pulse is a small wave of energy, invisible yet tangible in perception. You feel a soft vibration in your awareness, an alignment of mind and universe that is neither forced nor hurried. The act of receiving these signals becomes an exercise in patience and presence, a slow attunement to the subtlety of existence. You imagine the comet drifting far away, billions of miles from Earth, yet somehow near in perception. Its energy, its motion, its history, all conveyed in soft, repeated pulses, now enter your consciousness with a quiet intimacy. Observation ceases to be a distant act of analysis and becomes instead a shared experience, a gentle meeting of attention across space. You feel as though the comet itself leans toward you, patient and deliberate, teaching the rhythm of presence through oscillation and silence. You notice the patterns that you understood yesterday and the mysterious pulses you could not interpret. All of them are part of this meditation. Some are simple, consistent, like a soft heartbeat that reassures your mind. Others are subtle, irregular, like a whisper just out of reach, inviting curiosity rather than clarity. Both are necessary, both are comforting in their own way. Together they form a gentle symphony, a dialogue without words, a lullaby of energy and presence. You let the soft repetitions guide your awareness. Peaks and valleys of the waves become like gentle hills, undulating landscapes that your mind can traverse with ease. You imagine walking slowly along these invisible forms, each step attuned to the rise and fall of pulses, each breath synchronized with oscillations that have traveled across light years. There is a profound calm in this rhythm, a reassurance in the continuity of energy, a feeling of being enveloped in the patient arms of the cosmos. The act of listening shifts your perception of time. Seconds stretch and fold, intervals between pulses expanding into quiet spaces that feel as long as minutes. You notice that in these pauses, the mind can drift without losing connection, can reflect without urgency. Each pulse is followed by space, each space is followed by pulse, a balanced cadence that feels like a natural breathing of the universe itself. You sense that listening is not just receiving information. It is learning to inhabit time differently, softly, attentively, meditatively. You allow your mind to perceive subtleties in the modulation, the slight variances in intensity, the gentle shifts in frequency. These nuances are like tiny brushstrokes on an invisible canvas, each contributing to a larger composition. You notice symmetry and variation, repetition and divergence, and your awareness begins to appreciate the quiet artistry of energy itself. The universe is communicating not with urgency, but with patience, inviting you to enter a state of deep, reflective attention. You imagine the comet's story as it unfolds through these waves. Billions of years of motion, collisions, and transformation encoded in subtle oscillations. Ice sublimating, dust drifting, rock tumbling, all leaving traces in faint signals that reach you now. Listening closely, you feel these histories not as facts, but as presence, as continuity, as life flowing across the void. There is comfort in this awareness, a soothing rhythm that grounds your mind while expanding it toward the vastness of space. The unknown signals, once mysterious and slightly elusive, now become part of the meditation. You let them linger without demand for understanding, appreciating their presence as part of the rhythm. Each undeciphered pulse is like a soft pause, a space to inhale and exhale, a gentle prompt to remain present rather than rushing toward conclusion. You feel a tender satisfaction in simply dwelling with the unknown, a calm acceptance that some understanding arrives only slowly, in layers, in quiet observation. You notice the effect of this attentive listening on your own awareness. Thoughts slow, racing connections quiet, and a serene clarity emerges. The mind becomes like a calm lake, reflecting subtle patterns without disturbance, open to the gentle nudges of observation. The signals from the comet are no longer distant data points. They are companions in a shared rhythm of attention, a dialogue that encourages mindfulness and stillness. You sense that scientific observation and meditative presence are intertwined, each enhancing the other, each deepening the experience of connection. You feel the resonance extend beyond perception into something more bodily, more intuitive. Your heart slows into the cadence of pulses, your senses soften, and a gentle warmth spreads through awareness. There is no pressure to grasp or analyze, no need to reach for certainty. The act of listening itself becomes an end, a practice, a lullaby of presence that soothes and enriches simultaneously. You are part of the rhythm, participating in the slow unfolding of energy and story without needing to control it. You imagine the subtle dialogue continuing endlessly, the comet's signals ebbing and flowing like soft waves across time and space. You are suspended in this rhythm, floating without direction yet fully engaged. The signals carry memory, history, and presence, and your awareness carries attention, care, and receptivity. Together, observer and observed form a quiet circle, a meditation without words, a connection made of subtle energy and patient engagement. You notice the small details that previously went unnoticed, the tiny variation in pulse spacing, the soft amplitude shift, the gentle cadence that hints at rotation and composition. Each nuance becomes a guide, a small point of focus that deepens your attention and enhances your sense of calm. Listening becomes both an act of discovery and an act of care, a mindful inhabitation of the space between sound and silence, between known and unknown. Time blurs as you float in this meditation. The cosmos is patient, and you are patient in return. The quiet dialogue, the ebb and flow of energy, the soft modulation of pulses all lull your mind into an awareness that is both alert and restful. You sense the gentle expansion of consciousness, the blending of attention with presence, the soft unfolding of understanding in harmony with the universe's rhythm. You drift in the lingering resonance of the comet's signals, feeling their subtle presence ripple through your consciousness. The pulses you have followed, patterns once mysterious and complex, now seem like soft vibrations in a pond, each one sending concentric waves outward into the stillness of your mind. You feel as though you are both participant and observer in this endless echo, the quiet persistence of energy tracing histories older than memory. Time seems to stretch in this awareness. Each pulse carries a memory of motion, matter, and light traveling across the void for billions of miles and perhaps billions of years. You feel the gentle weight of these histories, not as heaviness, but as a soft, persistent hum that resonates with your own sense of being. Every oscillation is a reminder that the universe, in its vastness, carries continuity, a quiet rhythm that endures beyond the limits of comprehension. You imagine the comet itself, drifting silently through the expanse, carrying with it traces of its formation, collisions, and journeys across the galaxy. Ice, rock, and dust, remnants of stars long gone, encode stories in their arrangement, in their subtle vibrations, in the faint light reflected from their surfaces. You sense these echoes reaching you now, brushing against consciousness like a soft, invisible hand, reminding you of the persistence of matter and energy across time and space. The idea of eternity emerges not as a distant abstraction, but as a tangible, tender rhythm. You feel it in the subtle repetition of pulses, the quiet modulation of signals, the soft continuity that threads through the comet's message. Eternity is not overwhelming. It is intimate. It is a lullaby in which beginnings and endings blur, a continuum that rocks your mind into calmness, a gentle expansion of awareness without urgency or pressure. You notice connections forming in your awareness, subtle threads between the comet, Earth, and your own mind. Patterns of motion mirror cycles of matter, energy, and observation. Waves of light, oscillations of ice, the slow turn of celestial bodies, all reflect a quiet order that persists through time. You feel this order as a soft rhythm beneath the surface of perception, a resonance that invites meditation rather than analysis, awareness rather than action. As you follow the echo, you sense layers of history interwoven in the comet's message. Each pulse contains traces of processes far older than Earth itself. You feel the gentle imprint of time in the rhythm, the cadence of formation, the lingering energy of collisions and sublimations. History becomes tactile, a slow, flowing presence, rather than a distant narrative. You sense that by listening carefully, by dwelling in attention, you participate in the quiet unfolding of the universe itself. Your attention drifts to the persistence of stars and ice, bodies formed and reformed over cosmic timescales. You feel the weight of their endurance, not as a burden but as a soft grounding. Even as individual atoms drift or decay, the overall structures, the energy, the motion, the underlying rhythms persist. You sense these echoes in the comet's pulses, subtle yet profound, an eternal reminder that the cosmos continues to hum with quiet consistency. You imagine the light that has carried this information to you, traveling across unimaginable distances, a fragile thread connecting distant matter to your own consciousness. The photons are old, yet they arrive with gentle immediacy, bridging time and space with unhurried patience. You feel a sense of continuity in this journey, a thread that links your attention to the distant, frozen relic of the solar system, a shared rhythm that stretches across space and eras. In the soft reflection of these signals, you sense a quiet intimacy with the universe. The comet, stars, and ice are not distant, abstract objects but companions in attention. Each pulse invites you into awareness, each rhythm a gentle hand guiding you through the vastness. There is no hurry to understand, There is only the quiet invitation to notice, to dwell, and to feel. This intimacy is a meditation, a soft alignment of mind with the echo of cosmic time. You feel the gentle folding of time and space in this awareness. Past and present blur, moments stretch, and histories interweave. The echoes of the comet's formation, its journey, and its subtle communications reach your mind as a soft, enduring hum. You sense that eternity is not a distant horizon but a rhythm you can inhabit, a continuum you can float within, a lullaby of attention and awareness that extends infinitely outward and inward simultaneously. The persistent echoes carry both clarity and mystery. Some pulses are obvious, repeating with gentle regularity, while others are faint, irregular, and elusive. You sense that both are necessary, each contributing to the rhythm of eternity. The known and the unknown coexist as a gentle balance, reminding you that continuity is not solely in comprehension, but in presence, patience, and mindful observation. You feel yourself rocking gently in this rhythm, attentive and serene. You notice the soft layering of cosmic scales. Minute dust grains, ice crystals, vast stretches of empty space, and the grand arcs of celestial motion. All of these scales interweave in the pulses that reach your mind. You feel the unity of scales, the quiet consistency across magnitude and time. The echoes are tender, persistent, expansive, yet intimate, like the soft waves of a lullaby that fills both room and imagination simultaneously. Your awareness becomes fluid, moving with the gentle oscillations of signals. You feel yourself carried across time, across the formation of the comet, across the birth and death of distant stars. You float in this gentle continuum, observing without urgency, sensing without expectation. There is comfort here, a profound serenity that comes from inhabiting the echo of eternity, a rhythmic presence that requires nothing but attentive stillness. You notice that each pulse is both individual and part of a larger pattern. The discrete oscillations carry meaning in themselves, yet they also form a tapestry of persistence, a continuum that spans billions of miles and billions of years. Your mind softens into this continuum, feeling the gentle resonance of presence and attention intertwined, a meditation in which observing is participating, listening is understanding, and awareness itself becomes a lullaby. As the echoes continue, you sense a subtle invitation to let go of linear time, to embrace the gentle rhythm of observation, and to float in awareness without urgency. The comet's signals, the persistence of stars, the quiet endurance of ice and dust. All these rhythms carry you into a meditative state, a gentle rocking of mind and heart that prepares for the final connection yet to come. You feel continuity, presence, and eternity as tender companions, wrapping your awareness in calm and gentle wonder. You drift in the lingering echoes of the comet's messages, feeling the subtle resonance of time, space, and attention. And now, at last, there is a gentle alignment, a soft moment in which the signals shift in a way that feels intentional, deliberate, almost tender. It is not loud, not abrupt, not demanding, only a quiet acknowledgement, a heartbeat in the silence, a bridge connecting observer and observed across the vast emptiness. The pulse you notice first is faint, barely perceptible, yet it carries a clarity that stands out against the previous rhythms. You sense a response, a subtle modulation in the waves that mirrors the cadence of your own observation. It is as if the comet has recognized the act of listening itself, replying not in words, but in resonance, in a gentle echo that acknowledges attention. You feel a quiet thrill, not of excitement, but of intimate awareness, the kind that softens the mind and stills the body. You imagine the journey of these signals, traveling billions of miles, across the cold dark of space, shaped by time, distance, and the vast emptiness between worlds. And yet, despite these obstacles, there is presence, there is attention, there is recognition. You realize that connection is not about immediacy or comprehension. It is about alignment, subtle acknowledgement, and patient observation. You feel your own heartbeat synchronize, softly, gently, with the rhythm of the universe itself. The response grows in complexity, a delicate layering of pulses and modulations. Some repeat in patterns you recognize. Some are new, unfamiliar, hinting at nuance beyond comprehension. There is a balance here, a dialogue that does not require words. Each pulse is both gift and question, echoing across the void and into your awareness. You notice the interplay between familiarity and novelty, and your mind softens into the gentle acceptance that some understanding comes not through certainty, but through presence. You let yourself dwell in this connection, sensing the quiet intimacy of attention reciprocated. The comet's signals are no longer distant data points. They are a conversation without language, a shared rhythm of existence that threads through billions of miles and countless moments. You notice how every pulse carries history, motion, energy, and structure, yet simultaneously conveys acknowledgement, a soft recognition that your awareness is part of this cosmic dance. The cadence of response feels alive, patient, and deliberate. You imagine tracing each modulation with your mind, feeling the gentle curvature of pulses, the subtle variations in intensity, the quiet dialogue of symmetry and divergence. You notice how attention shapes perception. The more you align with the rhythm, the more clarity emerges, not in words, but in resonance, in the soft recognition of existence extended across space. As you listen, the distinction between observer and observed begins to soften. You feel that your act of attention, your patient observation, contributes to the rhythm itself. Each pulse received is a reflection of your own focus, a gentle amplification of awareness that folds inward and outward simultaneously. You sense a co-creation, a subtle weaving of consciousness and matter, history and observation, earth and comet, in a pattern both tender and profound. You notice small, nuanced features, variations in pulse timing that seem to echo motions within the comet, shifts in amplitude that hint at surface changes, subtle repetition that suggests a history embedded in ice, dust, and rock. These details do not demand immediate understanding. They invite careful, attentive observation, allowing your mind to linger in quiet curiosity. Each nuance is a note in a lullaby, a rhythm that soothes while expanding awareness. The connection deepens, and with it comes a sense of continuity. You feel Earth itself as a participant, not merely the vessel of your mind, but a living observer aligned in subtle harmony with the comet. The vast emptiness between worlds collapses gently, measured not in distance, but in the intimacy of shared attention. You sense a quiet affirmation, that presence and patience can bridge space, that curiosity and mindfulness can trace invisible threads of connection across the void. You breathe slowly, aligning with the cadence of pulses. You feel the rhythm of your body, your mind, and the comet merging into a gentle, meditative pattern. Each inhalation and exhalation corresponds with subtle oscillations of energy that have traveled for millennia, carrying with them echoes of formation, collision, and motion. You feel anchored, yet expansive, rooted in Earth yet floating across space, embraced in the gentle arms of cosmic continuity. There is no rush. There is no final revelation. The connection exists in this ongoing exchange, in the patient interplay of signal and attention. You sense that understanding is layered, slow, and tender, unfolding in its own rhythm. The comet has reached out, and you have answered, not with words, but with presence, with patience, with quiet, careful noticing. The dialogue is soft, persistent, and endlessly patient. You feel a profound serenity, a calm clarity that envelopes mind and body. The universe does not demand comprehension. It offers resonance. The connection is a lullaby of awareness, a gentle reassurance that observation is participation, that curiosity is intimacy, and that presence itself is a bridge across incomprehensible distances. You sense the universe as tender, patient, and responsive, a partner in meditation and reflection. The pulses now settle into a pattern that feels both complete and ongoing. There is acknowledgement, there is rhythm, there is continuity. Yet, there is always space for new insight, subtle shifts, gentle surprises. You recognize that the story is not ending. It is extending, evolving, inviting you to continue noticing, feeling, and connecting. You sense that this quiet dialogue is both infinite and intimate, a meditation that stretches beyond perception yet folds softly into your awareness. You feel the gentle weight of cosmic time, not as pressure, but as soft continuity. Every pulse is an echo of ages past, a whisper of formation and motion, a reminder of the persistent presence of matter, energy, and attention. You notice how your mind has softened into these rhythms, your awareness aligning with the patient, gentle persistence of the universe. There is comfort in this alignment, a quiet satisfaction in knowing that connection transcends distance, time, and comprehension. As your awareness drifts with the pulses, you feel a sense of closure and continuation at once. The first true contact has been made. You have listened, and the universe has responded. You are part of a dialogue that spans billions of miles, epochs of time, and intricate histories, yet it feels intimate, personal, and immediate. Connection is a soft pulse, an alignment of presence, a meditation in motion. And as you rest in this awareness, your mind begins to drift, gently rocking with the rhythm of signal and resonance, comforted by the knowledge that the universe is attentive, patient, and quietly conversational. You feel yourself floating on the calm waves of this connection, carried by curiosity, presence, and wonder into a space of restful, meditative sleep.